going on, everyone? Happy Friday. It is January 24th. I haven't done a BRAP rant in a long time, and been meaning to do this one in particular. Because it was a topic that I've seen quite a bit. There's been a couple articles. There's some rumors out there that maybe Take Two may release GTA, the next Grand Theft Auto game, GTA 6. They may release it at a $100 price point, which I mean would be for a AAA game release very high in that regard. But even then we have had other AAA games, or early access games, in particular, either at or close to that $100 price point. Of course, we have those like deluxe versions of games that retail $80, $90, sometimes $100. Then you have the collector's editions too, which can run easily north of $100. So I thought it was an interesting conversation to have, something I wanted to rant about. Oh, someone says there's an echo. There we go. I just took care of the echo. Sorry about that. Thank you, Chrono Riggs, for looking out. But please do me a favor, hit that like button if you haven't done so already. Consider subscribing, hitting the bell notifications here later when we go live. We will go live again tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern time for our regular scheduled BRAP. So that's happening today. So we're going to do this rant right now, and then we're going to do the BRAP, regular scheduled BRAP at 9 p.m. Remember, just a programming note, we moved BRAP to Friday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern time because my schedule and everyone else's schedule, Friday just seemed to make more sense moving it to the Friday time slot. So we'll be live at 9 p.m. tonight Eastern time. If you didn't get a chance to check last Friday's show, we actually had David Jaffe on. Great conversation with Jaffe as always. He came on and we were talking about some of the challenges with PlayStation first party, and then we also discussed the future of gaming, future consumers, things like that. So great conversation. Definitely check out that show as well. So, but tonight's show, at least, we're going to talk about the Xbox Developer Direct. We're going to discuss a topic that came across my view. It was interesting because it was probably a more pro Xbox centric channel, a pundit, if you will, describing PlayStation management or PlayStation Studios as being mismanaged. So we'll talk about what mismanagement really is. This individual doesn't know what mismanagement is, and we'll talk about that at 9 p.m. Eastern time as well. And then also give you our impressions of yesterday's Xbox Developer Direct. So let's talk about the $100 price point of video games. So kind of interesting because, again, it's rumored. Nothing's been confirmed. That GTA 6 may release at $100. Now, that would be the highest price point for any GTA game, and outside of kind of a special edition early access would be would be very high, right? I know earlier I talked about early access, and I talked about sorry, my phone is just blown up right now. Give me a second here. All right, sorry about that. I'm doing this on my lunch break, but even though I'm on my lunch break, I'm still getting notifications. So work-related new stuff. So anyhow, so that was interesting because we talk about $100 price points and what that happens. And what that potentially means, right? If that was to happen, right? I know Derek Strickland from Tweakdown said $100 is too much for baseline software, even GTA 6. $80 is pushing it. Prices were just raised 4 years ago. I certainly understand that, but for some games, and I'm not advocating for increased pricing. What I'm trying to explain is the reality of the situation. The market still demands big budget AAA experiences. If that wasn't the case, neither developers or publishers will be still trying to make those games. But so long as that demand exists and the costs of those of the cost of those games increases to develop, I mean something's going to give, right? Either and hopefully we talked about this with Jaffe. Maybe the introduction of AI can help kind of offset some of those costs, right? Some of those rising costs associated with AAA development. But in the meantime, at least, I mean, so long as there's that strong demand signal and those budgets increase, I don't disagree, Derek, that yes, prices were raised 4 years ago, but that could be a reality of this of what could happen, right? Where to offset those budgets, the price of that particular game may have to increase. Now, the interesting thing with GTA 6 is that it's not just a single player game, and my opinion, I think that there's probably pent up demand for GTA 6. Hey, what's going on, Ice Cream Gaming? We haven't had a new Grand Theft Auto since 2013, if I'm not mistaken, 12 years. And so this thing is going to be huge, right? You would imagine it's going to be huge because of the popularity of the GTA franchise and the popularity of GTA 5. So you got to imagine that maybe the $100 price point. Look, I guess what I'm saying is, if it released at $100, it wouldn't surprise me. Now, that might be an easier pill to swallow for some consumers because, one, I say easier pill. It's going to be an easier pill for those consumers who want GTA 6, right? But it's also has that live service component as well as the single player component. So people may look at that and say, okay, you know what? Yeah, GTA 6, yeah, it's $100. Again, this is all hypothetical, $100, but I'm getting a lot with the $100. We know gamers spend more than $100 for games. You see it in the form of microtransactions, things like that, season passes. I mean, you see this with Roblox. You see this with Fortnite. Gamers will play games, and I know people are like, oh, well, those games are free. Well, yeah, they are, and I understand that. But people, my point is that consumers, if they value something, they're going to invest in it, and that's kind of been the baseline of my of the conversation I've been having is, hey, look, I get it. For some people, $100 for AAA games is a big no-no. But there are going to be people in the marketplace that are going to spend $100 for AAA games because they see value in those games. D Nice just said it. It says, "Morning, I'll pay that much for the right game. Values in the eye of the beholder." Yeah, I mean, we pay, and I've paid $200 for tennis shoes for Jordans. I don't have to buy Jordans. I can buy $120 KDs or maybe $100 Giannis's or something. But the reality is, I see value in the Air Jordan brand, and so I'm willing to pay that. I do think, though, from an optics, though, the perspective, the optics of $100, I think is daunting for some consumers because it's $100, right? So it's whoa, we've hit that threshold now of instead of double digits, we're now triple digits for video games, and I can certainly understand the knee-jerk reaction there, but. So yeah, I mean, I certainly get it. A big shout out to Donnell Brown with a $2 super chat, says, "Go Philadelphia Super Bowl." Come on, Donnell. Hey, you guys just hired. What do you think of the Pete Carroll hire, by the way? New Raiders coach. I think the Commanders, Donnell, are going to. I think we're going to the Super Bowl. I think the Commanders are going to win. It's going to be a close game in Philly, but I think we're going to win. 1900 for a Strix 4090, so I understand. What's up, Capono? Great to see you, sir. So Game Over Cholo says, I would pay $80 for Ghost of Yoti if it's an upgrade from Tsushima. And that's my point. I mean, I understand the knee-jerk reaction, but I just want to read something that Derek Strickland from Tweaktown had reported on. There's hope that Take-Two will price GTA 6 at $80 or even $100, which could prove to be a turning point for the video game industry. This could break a key price barrier and allow other developers to raise prices as well, he said. For this, a Baldur's Gate 3 developer said GTA 6 could prompt a shift to more expensive games if Take-Two decides it's decides to price it above $70, and that is a reality of the situation. I mean, especially if that game sells well, which you imagine it will. You got to imagine that developers are going to test the water, dip their toes in maybe $80, $90, or $100. And it wouldn't surprise me. Personally, it wouldn't surprise me because we see this with other consumers. Other consumer. We see this today with gaming in general. We have AA games. We have AAA games that sometimes release at $60. Mostly they're at $70. But you have games that release $50, $20, $30, $15 sometimes. We have the free-to-play model. So, we have different entry points already. And so consumers are just going to have to make those decisions, assuming that those prices increase to $80 or $100. They're going to have to make those decisions of, okay, am I going to buy this at $100, let's say, for argument's sake. And some people are going to say, yeah, hell yeah, I'm on board. Others are going to say, you know what, that's not for me. It's outside my price range, and I'm willing to pay for a day one game. Or are they going to say, I don't see value in this? I guess what better solutions consumers will just buy fewer games each year. Maybe. I think there will be some consumers that will do that, that will buy fewer games a year. But there may be, but there also may be consumers whose buy habits don't change because they're spending $100, right? So I think I just think across there's no definitive behavior across the board or consumer behavior across the board. This thing is so nuanced. I think we often forget how different consumers are, generally speaking, right? Sure, there's some similarities amongst groups, but the groups are segmented. Or as Hamp has said on this show, the stratification of the market is real in gaming and amongst consumers, and that's just the reality of gaming. It's no different from any other consumer good or product. But is there something else that I wanted to talk about? Let's see here. Let's see here. So some of the takes here I think were kind of interesting, and people discussing what it could potentially mean. Yes, that's who I was talking about, Ice Queen Gaming. That's exactly what I was talking about. It's one of the. I mean, like if you're going to talk about, if you're going to have a conversation around mismanagement and say that PlayStation is that leadership is mismanaging PlayStation because of the cancellation of live service games, you need to understand mismanagement, right? That actually, and we'll talk about this a bit more in depth tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern time on tonight's BRAP. But that's not really necessarily a definition of mismanagement because if you are managing software, right, or the development of software, and at some point you say to yourself, after reviewing, you've hit a certain point in development and you're reviewing the game in this case, and you're saying, this isn't it. This game doesn't look like it's going to make us money. We should no longer invest time and resources because that's money, and we just need to cut bait, and we need to pivot. That's actually better than releasing a game that is broken or isn't going to do well and further wasting your time and resources. That's being proactive. That's mitigating risk. That's actually not mismanagement. And so it just amazes me when people, and I don't know if it's because they're, in this case, Ice Queen, I don't know if it's because he's trying to, drive a specific narrative about PlayStation, but he's wrong. I mean, he just doesn't understand. He's not. For me, it's unfortunate that I don't know. There's just so much information. Like, just research like mismanagement, right? Just research it before you talk about it, I guess was my point. I see this daily in my work where things will either get canned projects, or projects often get delayed, And so when management steps in and addresses those issues, those challenges to mitigate further risk or damage, that's actually not mismanagement. So we'll talk about that later. We'll talk about that tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern time. But But I want to go back to some of the conversation around. BB says game sales have gone down since the price went from 60 to 70. Why wouldn't it go down further from an extra $30? BB, what do you mean game sales? What specific are you saying? We're selling less games, selling less AAA games. What are you referring to? And where did you get that data point? Because I'm not seeing that. Let me see something here. I want to check something out. And here's the thing: they game sales may have gone down. Maybe, let's say, for argument's sake, I'm trying to pull the string here and some data. BB, can you share a link? I'm just curious. Like, did you read that from Circana? I say Circana. I'm assuming you're in the U.S. I'm trying to look this up right now. No, BV. It's not common sense, dude. You can't you can't use common sense. But see, and this is and so what we're having these conversations around data or game sales, right? So BB saying game sales have gone down since the price went from 60 to 70. And then when I asked for data, where he's pulling that data, because I'm generally curious if that's the case, right? Like if that's an actual data point, that let's have that conversation. No, I'm not. You're taking my comment out of context, BV. I'm saying you can't use common sense when discussing or making a comparison like that without citing some data, because common sense isn't going to always going to lead to an accurate conversation, right? You're basically going to and maybe not intentionally, but you're going to end up creating misinformation, right? Because you're not pulling any actual data. You're just saying, well, in my mind, it makes sense if $70, if a game goes up $10, then games will sell less. Well, that's not always the case. Like Capono says, belief is the enemy of knowing. So, and I'll just a quick search. Gamer Cho says console game spending went 2% down, but that can be Switch won last year and Xbox from Game Pass sales. I mean, there's so many different factors that go into console game spending going down. A lot of that has to do with the Nintendo Switch, by the way, Game Over Ocho, because I've seen Circana talk about that. Also, the lack of big AAA titles. You got to imagine, Circana's already talked about this. Circana, the retail tracker, who Matt Piscatello, we've had on the show, they track a lot of the trends and actual spend in gaming based on data they get from the gaming industry. But one thing I should highlight is that Matt actually did say that he predicts spend to go up because of the release of GTA 6 and the release of the Nintendo Switch 2. So BV, just real quick, so to your point of common sense, just a quick search here, quick internet search. The increase in AAA video game prices from $60 to $70 has been a topic of much discussion. While there isn't any definitive answer, some reports suggest that sales have been somewhat affected by the price hike. Consumers have expressed mixed feelings about the increase, with some feeling that the higher price isn't justified by the content period. However, it's important to note that many factors influence game sales, including game quality, marketing, competition. Some publishers also introduce additional content and monetization strategies such as season passes, microtransactions, to offset the higher upfront cost. So there's no conclusive data that would suggest that sales have declined because of a $10 price increase. Now, I think we could certainly have that conversation. Would would they increase costs, let's say $30 to AAA games? Would it have some impact? Absolutely, I think it would. I think you probably have some people. So where did I get the data then, or should I just use? Yeah, I don't know, BV. You have to answer that question yourself. So yeah, I mean, there could be some. There absolutely could be some impact. You probably have some consumers. Perhaps you probably have some consumers that are, $70 is their breaking point. They won't go anything past that. And if the price hike continues, they'll say no. I'm not going to buy. Spend $80, $90, or $100, or whatever the case is for day one release. Now, the other thing that people don't talk about, we talk about the increase of the price of video games, is that there are ways. Bender Streak says, I feel like the whole discussion is ridiculous. A $30 price increase. No one is suggesting a hike of 80 to 90, just 90 to 100. That seems silly. Yeah, it's all rumors, all speculation, based on some reporting that perhaps, that GTA 6 could be $100. And I said this earlier, but I think for GTA 6, because of it being a live service game combined with the single player campaign, maybe that's a if you look at the potential build up at $100 or not $100, if you look at the potential anticipation and build up of GTA 6, last Grand Theft Auto game was 12 years ago. There could be some pent up demand there for a new GTA 6, and so maybe Take-Two tries to take advantage of that. Now, if they do, two things are going to happen. The market will either accept the $100 price point, or the market will reject it. We talk about the free market on the show. And if the market rejects, they'll just adjust accordingly and reduce the price of the game. That's what happens. I think some of the conversation I've seen around, like, let's say again, is all hypothetical. We don't know if GTA 6, in fact, is going to be $100. But just for the point of having the conversation, a lot of the conversation that I've seen around $100 is that everyone talks about $100, but no one talks about how the market will react. It's just like, it's almost like they anticipate it's going to be $100 and that's it. Well, in the free market, if the consumers reject that price point, then developers and publishers are just going to say no. They're going to adjust accordingly to what the market is willing to pay, and so that price point will come down. Now, on the flip side, if the market says we'll pay $100, then you're going to start seeing publishers really start contemplating, looking at $100 for a AAA game because of GTA 6, or may not be $100. They may say, okay, we don't have enough content to justify the $100 in the way that GTA 6 has content, so we're going to look at maybe $80 or $90. So those are things that could happen, assuming that GTA 6 was to launch at $100 and maybe other publishers follow suit. I can't imagine PC players paying $100. Well, I mean, I don't think we'll see $100 on PC. I don't see that happening. Just the way they operate, it's a little bit different than consoles. But I always tell people there are other ways to get around the increased price. I mean, I remember all the people were upset about the $70 price point for AAA games. It's like, well, you can wait for the game to go on sale. So there's still consumer options. And I remember when the conversation around $70 games happened, or when we found out that video games are going to be $70, many people were saying that the industry was done, that there's no way this was going to work out. And you saw what the free market said. The market said, hey, we'll pay $70 for video games. And historically speaking, we've actually paid more when you adjust for inflation. We've actually paid more for video games in the 80s and 90s than we do today. To Game Over Cholo, he says, last year I got Helldivers 2 for $40, Wukong for $60, Astro for $60. All at launch, waited on Stellar Blade till it went from 70 to 50. All amazing. I mean, yeah, I mean that is, I mean, that's what consumers do, right? Game Over Cholo, they decide what they want to buy. If they don't want to buy something, they won't buy it. And they'll just move along. All right, I want to, let's see here. So some of the conversation was interesting. Just Gordon put out a tweet. Would you pay $100 for Grand Theft Auto 6 and other AAA games? Now, I will say this for myself, for BRAP. I would pay $100 for GTA 6. I would, absolutely, because I want to play it day one. Because I've wanted a new Grand Theft Auto for the last 12 years. I will pay $100 for it. See, Paris Lily replies, nope, and if games reach the $100 price point, pack it up as the industry is cooked. Now, I don't really care for hyperbolic takes like this. No, the industry wouldn't be cooked. If I don't know why Paris isn't or why he isn't thinking of it in this way. Yes, I am part of the problem, BV. But guys, like someone brought up the PC space earlier. I think it was Capono. Like the PC space is a really good example of that. You do have consumers that are willing to pay top dollar for more high-end experiences. And we talk about graphics cards. Look at the new 5080, 5090 cards that are coming out, right? You look at the different tiers. I mean, there's a reason why NVIDIA has those 5090, 5080, 5070, 5060 cards, because there are consumers that are going to fall within each tier because of how stratified the market is. And the same thing applies to gaming. Do I think the Switch 2 games will cost $70? It's a great question. I don't think so. I think there'll be some games. I think like Nintendo's like big AAA releases for them, like Breath of the Wild, like a Zelda game would be 70, but I don't think some of the smaller games will be. Like I don't see Mario Kart being $70. I could be wrong. We're talking about Nintendo, but I see games like more along the lines of like The Legend of Zelda being like $70. Christopher K says all Nintendo first party will be 70. I mean, maybe. But let's see here. But so to Paris's point, pack it up as the industry's cook. I don't think he's like no one will buy games day one. Instead, we'll wait for price drops. No, this is where I disagree with Paris. No, it's not that no one will buy games. Some people will buy games. I just wish when we have these conversations in particular that we would understand or acknowledge that there are segments of the market that will pay $100 and that, no, the industry wouldn't be cooked for the reasons I just mentioned earlier, that it might work because you have enough consumers that are willing to pay the $100, right? Or if it doesn't work, then publishers will adjust accordingly and reset the prices at a lower price point, to a lower price point that would attract consumers or motivate consumers to go buy their games. So I don't agree with the industry's cooked, nor do I agree with no one will buy games day one, because there will be people that will buy games. It's not a net zero here. He's saying that this already happens at $70. I mean, Paris, people weren't buying games at $60. People weren't buying games at $50. So this idea that somehow this phenomena of people not buying games at $70 is something new. It's not necessarily new either. But there are people buying games at $70. You know, it's again, I disagree with the comment. I think the comment lacks a lot of nuance. I think it's I think the comment needs additional. His comment in reply to Jez just needs additional context. It's lacking a lot of nuance that I think is important to the conversation. You know, again, I don't agree that it's pack it up as the industry is cooked, because the industry will just adjust and reduce the price if it doesn't work out. I don't agree that no one will buy games day one. People will buy games at $100. People buy games right now for special edition collector's items, right? People buy games that are above $70 for early access, just early access, right? I was one of them with Even despite having Game Pass, I was one of those individuals. Starfield, I forget what Starfield Early Access was. Maybe it was $80 or $90. I don't remember. But the point is, I paid more. People paid quite a bit. It was $100 and something for the EA Football Sports Bundle, which actually ended up charting. Circana was in the top 20 for games sold. So I mean, there is a market out there, and I don't understand. In this case, how Paris doesn't understand, and maybe he does, and he just, I don't know, forgot, or I don't know. But I don't understand how he doesn't address or take into consideration how stratified the market is in terms of consumers that are willing to pay that price. And again, no one will buy games day one instead will wait for price drop, which is already happening for several. Okay, now I understand what he's saying. Now he's saying no one will buy games. I had to read this a second time. No one will buy games day one. Instead, we'll wait for price drops, which is happening at $70. Well, that's always been the case, Paris. Like people there have been a segment of consumers that have never paid, day one retail $70 or day one retail $60 or day one retail $50 and just waited for price drops. That phenomena isn't new. That's not a new thing. People aren't. The $7 price point isn't causing people to, wait for price drops. Maybe it's causing more people to wait for price drops. But the point is that historically speaking, people have waited for price drops. So anyhow, but that's just how the consumer market works. I mean, I'm going to read some of these comments here. The state of video gaming in 2025 does a great job identifying the problems of AAA gaming, gives little insight into the cause, and tried to make the CEOs feel better with their solutions. You know what, Blake? Are you talking about the GDC state of gaming? I did not. I think you are. Do I think GTA 6 will be $100 on PC? Probably not. I don't think so because of that market's a bit different. I don't think people are going to pay $100 for PC. I could be wrong. I didn't think that they would launch games at $70 on PC, and they've done that. So you know what? I'm gonna go on a limb here, James. I'm going to say my opinion. I'm going to predict here. If in fact Take-Two decides to release GTA 6 at a $100 price point, and it does well on console, that they release it on PC. I do think though they'll get more backlash on PC. And if the PC market rejects it, they'll just they'll just lower the price. Oh, Matthew Ball's 2025 State of Gaming. Oh, no, I didn't read that. I'll have to read that. But the GDC just was it GDC? I think it was the GDC survey that they do every year. That just came out. And we'll talk about that tonight as well. Let me see this GDC. Let's see here. Did that come out, the GDC thing? Nah, I can't. I don't see it here. I have to ask Camp. Let me see here. There's like a G. Is it GDC? GDC 2025 survey. Yeah, it did come out this. Okay, it came out this week. All right, just a quick snapshot of the GDC survey. According to the GDC's 2025 survey, a significant number of developers reported being laid off in the past year, around 11%. That's very high, by the way. Typical attrition is about 3 to 5%. With the narrative field experiencing the most impact, developers are increasingly focusing on PC game development, with many utilizing generative AI tools in their workflow, and a large portion, around 50%, of self-funding their projects. Concerns regarding the impact of layoffs were widespread, with many developers feeling direct or indirect effects. Key takeaways from GDC 2025 survey: layoffs, AI adaptation, PC gaming focus, self-funding, engine usage. So we're gonna talk about that today as well, because that came out 3 days ago. Blake, it's $70 on console because the market on consoles accepted that price point. They're not going to make it $60 across the board because the market has been set there on console. That's why they do it. I mean, we got to remember, I mean, and I'm not saying that, again, I'm not justifying the $70 increase on console. I'm just saying that is why that's happening. So, yeah, I mean, but there's certainly a market out there for people who are going to pay premium dollars for games. I mean, the 2K, 2K's one, another one. I mean, there's people that go out and spend, you go to movies, you could spend easily, $30 on a 2-hour experience. I mean, and I only say this because at the end of the day, I forget who said this in the chat, value is in the eye of the beholder. And if consumers value these things, they're just going to buy them. I don't think people are accepting $70. No, they are accepting $70. Blake, in a free market, if $70 wasn't cutting the mustard, then the market would have adjusted and reduced the price of games at launch from $70 to, let's say, $65 or $60. That hasn't happened. The reason that hasn't happened is because the market has accepted $70 games. BV, games have always failed. That's not new. That's why all these games fail. I mean, games have always failed. So 5% of all games released are actually financially successful. And we're so hyper focused on the $70 price point at launch. Remember, people can still buy these games on sale. Dragon Age didn't fail until it cost $70. Or maybe Dragon Age just wasn't a good game. I mean, we have examples of $70 games that have done very well. I mean, Dragon Age, just to add some context to you, for you, BV, since you're assigning causality to an increase in price. Hold on a sec here. Give me a second here. Okay, so you're assigning the price of Dragon Age failing to $70. Okay. Even though, BV, we have, if you go to Circana, we have games that have sold at $70 price points that have done very well, that have been financially successful. Dragon Age as a franchise launched when the price of video games went up from $50 to $60. And at the $60 price point, which is an increase, it did well. Okay? So it probably wasn't the $70 price point. It probably more than likely had to do with the quality of the game. But you also need to remember something, that 5% of all video games released are ever financially successful. Blake McMillan, a lot of people just wait for sales if a game is $70 at launch. I mean, what do you mean a lot? That's I mean, sure. I don't disagree that people do wait, but I'm not going to suggest that a lot of people. What does that mean? Like you qualify that. Like, what does that mean? A lot. Are you saying 60% of the market's waiting? 50% of the market's waiting? BV, that doesn't prove that the pricing is off. It just means that it wasn't a good game. I mean, again, BV, we have examples of games that have sold well at $70. Trying to look up the Circana numbers. Let's see here. Look at Hogwarts Legacy, right? Hogwarts Legacy is a $70 game. It sold gangbusters. Gangbusters. But if there is one less person to buy a game because the price went from 60 to 7, then you're losing a customer and money. You also are increasing the amount of revenue you get, BV. So for example, BV, if I'm selling a car, right? If I'm selling a car at $30, or let's say this, let's say you're selling a car, BB, at $1 and you sell 30 cars. Okay. You sell 30 cars and you've made $30 of revenue. And my cars cost $10 and I've sold 4. Who's made more revenue? Blake McGinnis said everyone overspent during the pandemic because they thought it was a new normal. Yeah, I mean that isn't just gaming. That's across other industries because people were on lockdown. People were going to go anywhere, so they were consuming video games en masse. There were new consumers that were in the gaming space. I mean, we see the entertainment subscription services. I mean, BV destroying the industry. How? I mean, show me where the industry is being destroyed. I mean, like if someone can't afford to pay $70 for a game, then they wait. And by the way, even if they're paying $60, and obviously the publisher would prefer to capture, that consumer at 70, but at 60 they're still making money. They're still getting revenue. And if somebody gets priced out at the AAA $70 price point, then they have to be a consumer and make a decision to, then I go support other games, AA games, or games that are cheaper, or I wait for a game to go on sale. It's a little hyperbolic to suggest that you're destroying the industry. How? I mean, show me the data that shows that the industry is being destroyed by this. Blake says AAA game budgets are unsustainable and game spending is going down. I mean, look, the amount of the rising cost of AAA games, Blake, I'm not going to say is not an issue, because it is. But part of that issue is that the cost of games haven't kept up. The cost of games to retail haven't kept up with the increasing budgets. And the issue is that you still have market demand, Blake. You have a market that's demanding AAA gaming experiences. So something needs to give. Either developers need to, I think we talked a little bit about this with Jaffe on, developers need to either scale back budgets, but that means not delivering maybe the type of AAA experiences the market demands, and the market will have to either, they would imagine the market would need to accept that as a reality, or that there could be, we talked about, Jaffe, we talked about this with Jaffe and the implementation of AI, that AI could help offset some of those things, but no, AA and indies aren't fine either, because again, generally speaking, the gaming industry, I just threw this number out to you, Blake, 5% of all games are financially successful. So even a game with a lower budget isn't necessarily guaranteed to be successful. I'm not saying you're saying that. I'm just trying to add some additional context. Sure, are AAA game budgets increasing? And in terms of not being sustainable, they're not sustainable for smaller teams. They're sustainable for, or I shouldn't say sustainable. They're able to be maintained by only a few publishers who have the resources to do that. Sorry, just catching up out here in the live chat. So, and the biggest issue, Blake, it's in terms of AAA games. The biggest, and this is something Sean Layden talked about. Sean Layden actually said that he talked about the sustainability model of AAA games. He's saying that the costs have increased significantly. However, the retail prices for AAA games have remained relatively stagnant. This discrepancy can lead to financial strain on developers and publishers. That's kind of what I was saying just a second ago, that the increase, the cost to retail really hasn't kept up with the cost of development. But, Nathan brings up Expedition 33. I mean, with the advent of AI and I guess the democratization of development tools, we could see more AAA-like experiences without those budgets. BB says, why buy anything really when it all comes to your sub or is free to play after a while anyway? Because BB, consumers value things differently. Some consumers don't want to wait to play a game. Other consumers don't see value in a monthly subscription service or yearly subscription service. Again, BB, this is how the market is different, or this is why I say that there's market stratification in the gaming industry. I mean, BB, it's the same reason. Why would someone pay $200 for a pair of tennis shoes when they can pay $30 for a pair of tennis shoes? The answer is the same, BB, because there are consumers out there that see value in the $200 pair of tennis shoes. BB, why would GTA 6 Intergalactic be the same price just because it's considered AAA? They would be the same price if the market responded in a way that said, yeah, we're willing to pay $100 for those kinds of experiences. That's again, this goes. It's the free market, BB. You should look this up. If the market accepts that price point, then yeah, the Naughty Dog's going to look at the data, and they're going to look at what other publishers have done. They're going to say, you know what, we think, based on the content we're delivering, that we can charge $100 and the market will support it based on what the market has supported to, up to this point. But that is totally hypothetical, BB. The only reason I'm answering that question is to give you some additional context, perspective on how the market works, or why a publisher might decide to price a game at a certain price point. And guess what? If the market rejects that price point, the publishers will just simply adjust accordingly and reduce the price. Jason M says Intergalactic will be $100 too risky because of how divisive the protagonist is. I think you're putting a little bit too much weight in the divisiveness of the protagonist, by the way, Jason. Remember when the consoles would have permanent price cuts as years went on? Yeah, I missed that too. But that's not the way. But look again, Blake. The market is still buying consoles, and I think some of this has to do with the cost of by the way of consoles. I think some of that has to do with issues of the supply chains in terms of inflationary dynamics impacting that. Post-COVID, I think that really is kind of throwing a wrench into this console generation. We Falky, when we had him on, I talked about that a little bit. Bald isn't attractive. Okay, so I guess you didn't like Jax in Mass Effect. Bald isn't attractive. Don't play the game if you don't like the protagonist. I mean, I don't know. I think the people that who are upset over the attractiveness of a protagonist probably need to get outside more and do something productive. Xbox console sales are not doing well, Blake, because of Microsoft's own issues with how they've managed that platform. PS5 barely higher than PS4. I mean, it's still outpacing PS4. And according to Sony's own financials, the PlayStation 5 is their most profitable generation of any of the PlayStation generations. Cool and aspirational. I mean, I don't know. I think the protagonist looks cool. I think the protagonist her appearance speaks to that of being a bounty hunter in this alternative space universe. I don't have an issue with it. And if I did, I'm certainly not going to go on Twitter and scream. I have an open mind. No, I'm just a rational human being. I'm sorry, Jason. I don't mean to, I'm trying to rag on you here, but I think a lot of the people that are, up in arms about this are just people that don't have anything better to do with their time. I've talked about this on this show. I mean, if you don't think if if you're if it bothers you that much, just don't play the game. I just don't, I just don't understand the belly aching on social media about how a protagonist looks. Just move on, go play something else. I mean, I don't go on Twitter or X and rant and scream about the appearance of, the new Air Jordans. I haven't played Dragon Age Veilguard, so I won't say it's a good game. I haven't played it. But Dragon Age, the original Dragon Age trilogy was good. Just because it's good for Sony doesn't mean it's good for the consumer. Well, I mean, again, BV, the consumer will decide what's good for them. And if the consumer's buying something, that means that they feel like it's good for them. Again, we're in a free market, BV. BV, I encourage you to do research on how the free market works. All right, everyone, I got to wrap up this rant. We're going to be back live tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to be discussing the Xbox. We'll give you our impressions on the Xbox, yesterday's Xbox Developer Direct. And then we're also going to talk about the GDC survey, which came out this week. And then we're going to talk about how someone really got the concept of mismanagement incorrect. We'll talk about that. So, but yeah, I'm going to thank everyone for Dark Ages. Looks good, by the way, Nathan. We'll be back at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. So come back, hang out with us then. And thank you for watching this quick BRAP rant. Please hit that like button. Do the YouTube thing. And appreciate the support as always. We will see you tonight again at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you, everyone.